Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Entre Abuelitas. Today, we're going to have a little different format for Entre Abuelitas show. This is going to be, more than anything, a solo show. Not because I can't find beautiful guests to accompany me, but because I have something so very real, something so very personal to talk to all of you about. It's a topic that we have mentioned it maybe in passing, or maybe we have talked with one of our guests about, but it's something that truly needs to be repeated time and time again because of what happens when it happens to you. In this case, to me. But I'm not just the one affected. I am, together with my family, going through a very hard time. And when is this? Come to find out that what I am living right now, my personal story, is not rare. It is not shameful, and it's not a sign of family failure. What it is a sign of is a deeply complicated caregiving becomes when old wounds meet a present-day crisis, when the siblings come together. It is well known through research that family conflict is one of the most common and painful parts of caregiving. It happens that adult siblings often regress into that childhood role that they had about unresolved issues from decades ago, and these issues suddenly matter quite a lot. We will talk about why it happens, when it happens, and possibly what can be done about it. It is not just happening to me, it is happening to quite a few of you listeners. You are going through a caregiving time, and it can be very overwhelming. Let's learn a little bit about it because this topic, this issue is not just a family. This is a pattern in today's society. Can we work on changing it so we don't have to leave that same pattern to our children? I think that would be so amazing. And when this happens, usually if there's two parents or one parent left, it is most of the time the responsibility, or it kind of falls in the purview of the oldest daughter or one of the daughters. In my case, I can say that for over 7 years, our mother lived with my sister, who did an amazing job because the caregiving consisted of not only continuing with your own life, but providing care and attention to a person who really, really needs a lot of your help. And usually, that one sibling, that one person, if there is more than one, of course, well, it just ends up being criticized by the others who live from afar. And this imbalance, this non-involvement, and this taking care of her the whole time is what usually causes conflict. It is also about the different opinions about medical decisions. And this is where my story becomes very raw. My mother, our mother, the mother of 5 children, ended up in the hospital. Well, 3 of the children, the 2 women and 1 male, we talk, and the male has been serving as a bridge and as a connection with the other 2, who most of the time we are separated by certain boundaries that we don't know exactly how they got there, and we have not been able to remove through the years. So it's been an imbalance of connection until mother ended up in the hospital, and we come to find out after the 3 of us came to a decision of having a DNR provided for mom because she wasn't doing well. What is a DNR? A DNR is a do not resuscitate. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to try and save her life. On the contrary, what is going to happen is that if you think of an 87-year-old woman who is fragile and is going through a lot, do you really want to see that person hooked up to machines, having to be intubated, with oxygen, maybe collapse lung from the force of the impact to try and revive her, maybe some cracked ribs, bruises. Do we really want to put our loved one through that? Well, then it came to the point that the other two apparently had a power of attorney. So bring it, right? Bring it to the hospital. Let's talk about it with the doctors. And such a thing happened. It was one of my brothers with his wife who did all of the talking, and myself, the doctors, and Mom. Yes, Mom was in the room listening to everything. And I think that at that moment, it was more about us than it was about anything else. I was accused of trying to kill Mom the same way I had done with Dad. Well, I don't think I caused Dad's cancer, and when it was time to be provided medication through hospice to ease his pain, well, that is exactly what this daughter did, and he died peacefully in my home. And for that, I am very glad I did not cause the cancer. I did not kill him. And I was not intending to do that with my mother, but I did not say anything. Because there are times, and we have said this time and time again on Entre Abuelitas, silence is golden. I think I did mention one moment to please lower their voices, but that was it. Because though everything hurt, you have to understand that I have worked very, very long and trying not only to forgive me, my past, and everyone around me. That's the only way to live, is really to have some inner peace, you know? Um, but how this story ends, the unknown was that at the end of it all, everyone decided on a DNR. A very important document that you must have for yourself if you believe that you're getting sick. Or make sure that you discuss it, that you talk it with your loved ones so that everyone is on the same page. What also happens and is at fault in all this breaking of the family is the old family dynamics resurface one more time. All those childhood roles, the responsible one, the golden child, the last child, the middle child, whatever it is, everything comes roaring back under stress because we all now have to make a decision. Also, for those children who do not live nearby and have not had the opportunity to be hands-on because they live far away, there's some form of guilt that forms there. And I have to tell you, I do understand how both perspectives are real and both create tension in the family. Also, there's that mistrust that arises from, is there any monies? Who is going to do what? You know, in our case, there is nothing to fight about. I think our only concern at this point should be, it is our mother's future. Now, what I'm living right now, siblings who cannot agree, old roles that resurface, conflict, and decisions, it's not unique. It's actually incredibly common. Families all over this country are breaking under the weight of caregiving, and not because they don't love their parent, but because caring for an aging parent forces you to confront every unresolved thing you grew up with. It all comes tumbling back in. Here in Entre Abuelitas, there is one thing that we truly, truly love to do, and that is to turn a lived experience into a collective wisdom. And as I speak of my personal life, my story right now, my raw truth, I know that there's quite a few of you out there who are going through the same. Because let me tell you, this is something that nobody prepares you for. When your elderly parent ends up in the hospital, and then, as in our case, in a rehab facility, you don't just walk into a medical crisis. You walk right straight into the family that you grew up with. And if that family was dysfunctional, well, then every crack will show. Every old wound will wake up. Every sibling suddenly becomes that 12-year-old version of themselves, fighting for control, fighting for attention, fighting to be right. I'm living it right now. I have a sick parent who has transferred from a hospital bed to a rehab facility, possibly to live in a nursing home for the rest of her life. And we are siblings who can just not agree on a damn thing. Not because we don't care, but the fact is that we never were taught to care together. And the wild part is that this isn't rare because your brother, your cousin, your neighbor, your friend at work, that person you happen to talk to in line somewhere, we are all going through this. You know, it's just that we care, but we don't know how to care together. And talking about it sometimes it just might mean that it feels messy and shameful, like we're failing at something that should we magically know how to do? How does that happen? But the truth of it all is that caring for an aging parent exposes every unhealed part of a family. It drags the past into the present and forces you to make decisions with people you barely know anymore. People who share your blood, but not your coping skills. So today we're talking about that chaos, that heartbreak, the resentment, the guilt, and the very strange and unexpected clarity that comes when you realize that you can love your parent deeply and still protect yourself from the dysfunction around you. It's very important to remember that if you're listening today, well, this episode is for you. You have to forgive me. I am messing up my sheets here. This episode is so for you because we are quietly living and caring for an elderly parent while navigating a family that never learned to care for each other, as I gently remind you. My story is just one version of what is happening everywhere. Old wounds that resurface, families broken way before the health crisis. So if they were fractured before, how do you, as a dysfunctional unit, arrive into a happy decision, a happy medium? It is difficult. We have to remember. And forgive me if I repeat myself a million times when I give you from the heart that simple advice to communicate with your loved ones, to ask questions, but not just ask them, but actually get answers. Because the parents who shaped us, well, they carried their own pain. And this is where we need to rebuild, reinvent ourselves so that there is no more blame left anywhere. Because there is no need to blame anyone. Because at the same time, in my case, we all came and were shaped down by the same mother, the same history, the same instability, as we each have carried a different version of our story. It's kind of incredible. And it's very sad because we have lost so much in this world already. We no longer get together for many things. I think I heard an interview with my favorite Harrison Ford, where we no longer even go to the theater, something that was so important for our culture, for who we are as people that are living together and sharing together. What is happening to all of that? Can we get some of that back? You know, what I would love from this show, this very personal, this solo show that I hope you listen to through, we are, is just such an important topic, because what I would love to happen, what I would love for us to learn is to understand why our families fracture and how our elderly end up living the consequences of wounds that were never meant to be passed down. Our parents grew up with their own insecurities and their own stories never to be told. And in that dysfunctional family they grew up, they brought some of that into us. But it is time to cut that ribbon. It is time to just move on, because we need to understand where we came from. Entre Abuelitas always softly reminds you to ask questions, to choose a different way. You know, in this part of this chapter, this story, this raw story of my recent life, I have heard accusations that I will not let touch me. I cannot. I choose kindness, faith, and softness to keep my own humanity. And you know what? If you try it, if you try and keep your own peace, understanding that no matter what it is you are going through, you can also choose them. If you are listening, if your family is fractured, if you're carrying all wounds, you are not alone. Not by any means. You are not. And one of the most important things when situations like this arise is protecting yourself. And you know how you protect yourself? You protect yourself with preparation, with decisions that need to be made. There is a few things that we don't talk enough about. Number one, we don't talk enough about end-of-life wishes. Why? There is no shame in that. We are all going to get there. Would you like to get there of your own accord, written down on a piece of paper as you choose to do so? Don't do it 40, 50 years before the fact. Keep updating your documentation, because with time, you will be either getting an illness or having another family decision to make when it comes to your home or where you're going or what you are doing. It is so very important that you do this. And we don't talk enough about legal protection, a power of attorney, a medical, write down on a piece of paper what it is that you want your life to be if you were to find yourself sick in a hospital bed and they had to make certain decisions. Help your family, cooperate in making your own decisions through life. It is very important. The hospital, us as a family, as 5 siblings, we all had to agree. And if we didn't agree at the moment and the days would pass on with my mother without having a directive or something to tell them what to do in case anything happened, well, it was a moment's decision. It had to be made. At the end, we all agreed. But if we had not, the hospital would have to take legal procedures to get someone involved to clarify the situation. You don't want to get there. You know that hospitals are so overwhelmed with our stories, with our fractured lives, with our broken families. Do you not think that these doctors and nurses have more than enough in taking care of our elderly, of taking care of every single patient, for them to be also be dealing with the unresolved issues of children who show up at the door looking like adults? No, we truly need to change that. Now, we need to talk to our parents now, and we need to know how they wish to leave this world. Do they want to leave while they are still being kept alive with machines? Or do they want to leave in peace when their body says that it's ready to go? Make sure that everything is written down legally, clearly, a medical directive, a power of attorney, a DNR if you wish to do so. But make it very clear to your loved ones, to those that are closest to you, how it is that you would like to handle those end of days decisions. And to all of us, remember to take care of yourself, because it is so very true that you cannot pour out of an empty heart. If you are listening to Entre Abuelitas and my solo show, if you are hurting, if your family is fractured, if you are caring for a parent while carrying old wounds, please hear me out. You can choose a much, much better life of clarity and light. You know, we know that most of us who come from dysfunctional families, one or both parents were just, they had not had a right example on how to be parents. They didn't know how to pass it on to us. And, well, it was a very difficult time growing up. But when you have a mother who has, through time, acted in a narcissistic manner and has been different with each child, of course, because you have to remember that when she had the oldest, aka me, she knew nothing about motherhood. And as the years went by, I'm sure that the relationship with each child was different. And the age differences were so different that added to the turmoil, because we were very hard to understand. While one was being born and raised, the other one was already leaving the home. But we have to remember that as much as we love that parent, and I can tell you with all honesty, I love my mother. She gave me life. And for that reason alone, you know, I have to be grateful and graceful, because nobody said that it was going to be easy. Even when she made that final push and I came into this world, I came alone. And as such, I will stand on my own until the very end of time. But just because that mother becomes old, it does not mean that they change. They do not change, not even at the end of life. They still demand your attention. They still want to rewrite history. And they still manipulate you through quiet guilt. She expects you, or your parent expects you, if you match my story, to sacrifice yourself. And you know what? Well, this is how we were trained to believe. But caregiving is not about that. Caregiving is about dignity. It is about safety, and it's about boundaries. When you take your parent to a facility, to a rehab facility, to a living care, well, this is not abandonment. It is protection for all. It is sad to love and to grieve the mother I have and the one I never had. I love her as she is, and I protect, the adult, me, who has worked so hard to become at ease and at peace with my past, my present, that will define completely how I live my future, my today. And as I close this episode of Entre Abuelitas, this really hard story that you've been listening to, it is very important for me to say this to my mom. Mom, even with all the storms between us, my heart never stopped reaching for yours. Thank you for joining us on Entre Abuelitas on this very special, very raw, very true and real episode. Please write to me at entreabuelitas@gmail.com, and we'll continue to bring up episodes of interest to all of us. You take care of yourself. Until the next time, I'm Liliana Montenegro. Buenas noches.